Welcome to today's stupendous RootsMagic webinar. My name is Michael Booth, and I'm Vice President of RootsMagic and one of its developers. And also with us this evening is the Roots Magician himself, Bruce Busby. And Bruce, of course, is the President of RootsMagic and its author. This evening's topic is Pictures and Media in RootsMagic. And based on our survey of webinar topics, it looks like this is a very popular topic that many of you are interested in. And we'll look at how to scan and add pictures and other media into RootsMagic of people, places, and sources to really bring your family tree to life. Let's start out with a quick poll. Okay, this poll question is, how many family history photographs or documents do you have? You can select 0, between 1 and 50, between 51 and 100, between 101 and 500, or more than 500. So go ahead and just click on your response. And it looks like most of you have voted already, and we'll give you a few more seconds to finish that. Okay, the results of the poll. Only 1% had no pictures, and 16% had between 1 and 50, 20% had between 51 and 100, 34% had over 100, and 30% had more than 500. Now we'll ask the same question, but this time we want to know how many family history photographs or documents have you actually added to RootsMagic. Okay, this is interesting. It's almost, we've almost taken the results from the previous question and flipped it on its head. 35% of you have not added any photographs or documents into your RootsMagic file. 36% of you have added between 1 and 50, 14% between 51 and 100, 10% over 100, and only 6% have added more than 500. Very good. Well, without any further ado, I am going to turn the time over to Bruce.
Well, thanks once again for joining us. Today, as Mike mentioned, we are going to talk about adding pictures, media, which can also include sound clips, video clips, things like that. You normally think of it as pictures, but in this case, it's going to be more than just pictures. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, one of the first things that I usually recommend people do when they want to work with pictures is to set their media folder. Okay, so we're going to show you quickly how to do that. What you're going to do is you're going to come up here to the Tools menu, and then you're going to come down to Program Options. And then from the Program Options, you've got several categories here, but the one we're interested in right here is called Folders. Now, what the Folders option lets you do in RootsMagic is select the default folders where data or backup files or multimedia files or reports or GEDCOM, the default folders where those should be found. Now, that doesn't mean all your pictures have to be in that folder. What it means is that whatever folder you select right here, RootsMagic is going to use that as the first place that RootsMagic looks when it opens a picture, when it lets you select a picture, when you add a picture, or when you do any of those types of things. So you can select what folder you want for your pictures by clicking the little 3-dot button over on the right, and that's going to open up your File Explorer and allow you to select the folder that you want. And I actually have my folder already selected. I actually created a folder called Genealogy Pictures underneath the Documents folder in my Windows. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And basically what that means is when I go in and say I want to add a new picture that happens to be on my hard drive, that's the first place it's going to look, so I don't have to keep changing to that folder over and over. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk a little bit about pictures. Now, when I open up a person's edit screen, this is the edit screen you should be familiar with. You'll notice that there is a camera or a media column here on the right for every piece of information that you've added. What that means is you have a scrapbook or a media album for the person, just a general media album. That's where I tend to put all of my pictures. You can put pictures in for each event as well, for each piece of information. Each family can also have a picture as well. So if I were to highlight the person row and then select media, that is going to open up the media album for that person. You can see right here, media album for Howard Smith Sr. On the other hand, if I happen to be highlighting the birth event and click on media, that's going to open up the media album for his birth. So in other words, I'm attaching any pictures or media items to his birth event instead of just to him generally. Okay, that could be useful for putting a baby picture, things like that. Okay, we're going to be coming back to this album so we can kind of show you all the different kinds of things you can do. If I happen to highlight a spouse and select media, that's going to open up a media album for the family. Okay, and that's going to attach the picture or whatever I add to this media album to his family, to Howard and Phoebe together. Okay, same thing for parents. It will allow me to add a media album, pictures to that media album for those parents. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I am going to select the person, and I'm going to add the media album to that. Now, there's also a shortcut. I don't have to highlight each item and then come down here to select media. I can click on the little box in that camera column for whatever row I'm interested in. So if I wanted to add a picture to the person, I just click on the little box, and that opens up the media album for that person. So let's go ahead and we're going to start. Now there's two ways that we can add media to a person. We can say we want to add new media, which means I'm going to add a new picture to the person, or a new sound clip, or a new video clip, or a new file, or I can say I want to add an item from the gallery. Okay, the gallery is a screen that shows you all of the pictures, all of the media items that you have added to your entire database. So it lets you reuse a picture that you've already used. The nice thing about reusing a picture that you've already used is, let's say you have a family picture. You can go in and add that picture to the father, to the mother, and to each of the children, so that when you look at that picture, you can say, show me a list of everybody that is using that picture, and you can see a list of everybody using that picture. So this first time, I'm going to go ahead and say I want to add new media, and RootsMagic brings up the Add Media Items screen. Okay, and this is where you can select what type of media it is that you're adding. By default, it's an image because most of the time that's what we will be adding. But you may also want to add a file, a sound clip, or a video clip. In the old days, sound and video, we very rarely actually use those, but it's becoming much, much easier to create sound clips and video clips. Nowadays, you can create a video clip with your digital camera. You can turn your digital camera, instead of being in photograph mode, you can turn it in video mode and take little short videos, and it saves those videos on the little card, which you can then transfer to your computer and add video clips to a person's RootsMagic file. You can also do sound clips. Nowadays you can get what is called a digital audio recorder, which is like a little tape recorder, except it's about the size of a flash drive. And what it does is you can take that and you can click record on that, and it just starts to record whatever audio, like a little cassette recorder, except much, much smaller, and it does not require a cassette. It's stored in flash memory in the little recorder. What's great about the little audio recorders is you pop a little cap off and it looks exactly like a little flash drive. You plug it into your USB port on your computer and it's just like a little drive with the digital sound clip right there as the file that you can drag and drop into your computer, and then you can attach that. My wife, we went and visited her father several years ago, and we took one of these little digital recorders and just set it on the kitchen table, turned it on to record, and started asking him a couple of questions, and several hours later we had an interview with him. It's not intimidating. It's not like having a big microphone sitting in front of him, you know, where he might have been intimidated. It just sits there out of the way and allows you to record whatever is said. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to leave this at image for now. Now, when you're going to add an image, you're going to have two options. You can either choose to select a picture that is already on your hard drive or on a CD or whatever, but you can choose where that picture actually already is. On the other hand, if your picture has not been scanned yet and you want to put it on your scanner and scan it, you can select the scan button right here, and RootsMagic will automatically run your scanner software and scan the image and then let you save that on a disk. Nowadays, though, a lot of us will have more than one scanning device, and that's why you have the option here to select your scanner. Okay, so when you click on Select Scanner, it's going to come up with the different sources that you have. Now, sometimes this may actually be a scanner. It actually might be the little your little card reader on your computer, where it's going to want to actually pull a picture off your little memory card, or it actually might be a camera. If you've got a digital camera and you've connected that with a cable to your USB port, you may actually see that listed as your scanning source as well. So you can select your scanner or whatever device it is you want to pull information off, select that, and then when you click Scan, it's going to connect to that scanner to allow you to actually scan the image or pull the image off of the camera or whatever. Okay, I don't actually happen to have a scanner connected up to my computer right here, so we're just going to go ahead and kind of mention that. But like I say, when you click that Scan button, it will go ahead and run the scanner software that came with your scanner. Let's go ahead and choose a picture that's on my hard drive. So when I click on Disk, what RootsMagic is going to do is it's going to open up a file dialog, and you're going to see right here where it says Look In. That's the folder that I had selected initially as my default folder. Now, I'm not limited to choosing pictures in that folder. I can come up to Look In and I can change it to a different folder. It's just that that is going to be the default folder that RootsMagic looks in initially. Okay. Now, there's a couple of things that you're going to see here. I have the ability to go over here and choose different places. If the picture's across the network, if it's on my computer, if it's in my Bruce folder, if it's on my desktop, I can go ahead and select those. I can also select a file that happens to be in this folder. Now, by default, it looks like it's giving me just a list of pictures, and that's great if I've given all my pictures useful names, but sometimes the names may not be quite as useful. So what you'll want to do is come up to this little button which lets you change this view. So when I click on that, I can choose to go to medium icons, which is going to show me smaller copies of those pictures. I can go to large icons, which makes them bigger, and I can go to extra large icons, which will pretty much show me one picture at a time. Quite a bit less useful, but if I want to see a lot of detail, I can do that. So I'm going to go ahead and select medium icons, okay, and so I can see the pictures right here, and I can scroll down. Now, if I want to see a particular picture in more detail, I can click on that picture right over here, and it's going to show me in the preview that picture, and it's going to show me some details, how many pixels, how many DPI that picture is. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go select a picture, and keep in mind I'm not necessarily adding the right picture to the right person. We're just kind of showing you how this can be done. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll just select this picture right here and choose Open. And RootsMagic is going to open up the media properties for this particular picture. It's going to show me a copy of this picture where I can actually zoom down or zoom in to see it at a better resolution if I want. And then I can add additional information about that. So I can put, you know, John Booth at age 60. And then the description field, this is where I can add paragraphs. I can go into much more detail with this description. And so just to kind of do things quickly, we'll just kind of throw a real quick description in here. As you'll notice, it has the little squiggly red underlines. If you've been watching any of our other webinars where we talk about things like this, you'll know that that's our spell checking, and you can right-click to choose the right spelling. And RootsMagic doesn't have a suggestion for SDLIF, but I can right-click there, or I can right-click within here, and I can use all of the note formatting. I can use the bold, italics, underlining. I can spell check. I can do any of those things right here from this description field. Okay, so you know the description field might be used as example. If this happened to have been a family picture, the description field might say from left to right, this is, you know, John Smith and Mary Doe and, you know, Aunt Martha and whatever. It also might be whatever happened to have been written on the back of that picture. If you've got a copy of that picture, you might type in whatever happens to be typed in on the back or handwritten on the back of that picture. It's up to you. You aren't forced to put a description field, but it's available there if you want it. Now there's also a date field provided for the media properties, and this again is optional, and it can be used however you want it. You might put the date that you entered this picture into RootsMagic. You might put the date this picture was taken if you know it. So it's kind of up to you as to what you use the date field for. The final field is called reference number. And the reference number field is, again, optional, but that can be used if you want to tie this digital image to a copy of your actual stored original copy of that picture. So if you've been filing your pictures away in a file cabinet and you've been giving them numbers, you can type that number in, which will tie this directly to your filing cabinet. This does not have to be a number. So it could be file cabinet 2, top drawer, purple folder, picture 10. You know, it's up to you, whatever you want to use that for. The main purpose is really, though, to kind of tie this digital scanned image of this picture or this piece of information to the actual original copy of that. Okay, there's two checkboxes you have right here, primary photo and include in Scrapbook. Now, primary photo is going to be checked by default for the first picture that you add to a person, but it does not have to stay the primary photo. The primary photo means since I can add 30 or 40 or 50 or 100 pictures to each person, RootsMagic needs to know which one of those pictures you want to use to print in pedigree charts and to show on the main screen as you navigate around. So that's where you can select that primary photo, and you can go in and out and change that anytime you want. The second option is whether or not you want to include this picture in that person's scrapbook. So you might add 10 pictures to a person, but there might only be 7 of the pictures that you actually want to print in their scrapbook, which is something we'll show you a little later. And so this lets you choose whether or not a particular picture will show there. So once I'm happy with what I've entered, one last thing, this change media file, if I ever want to actually change this picture to a different picture without retyping all of this, like if I get a better copy of this picture or whatever, that's just going to open up that file dialog and let me pick a different picture to use. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and RootsMagic is going to add that picture to my media album. And it's going to put the caption there, or as much of the caption as it can display. And over on the right, when that picture is selected, in other words, when it has the little red border around it, it's going to show you over here the full path name for that picture, the caption, the description, and whether or not that is the primary picture and whether or not I should include that in the scrapbooks. Okay, now I see a question right here that I've just been actually waiting for somebody to ask. All my pictures seem to have an icon down here in this bottom right corner. It looks like a little starburst with a chain across it. Basically what that is that is what you would call a broken link. Okay, we've had it called a butterfly, we've had it called a firework. What it is it's a little chain link, a link that has that's broken and has like a little explosion around it to kind of show that it's broken. What that means is that when I select this picture that I've just added and come back into properties, when I come into properties, right up here, RootsMagic is showing me where it thinks this picture is on my hard drive. Because when I added this picture to RootsMagic, RootsMagic did not take this picture and embed the picture inside of the database. Okay? We don't put those pictures inside of the database because adding large pictures to a data file is just asking for corruption. So what RootsMagic does is it links to the picture on your computer. So what RootsMagic does is whenever RootsMagic needs to use this picture, it says, I need to go to c:/users/Bruce/documents/genealogy/pictures/Booth, John, and so on. It says, I need to go there and get that picture. Well, if you go in and take that picture that you have linked to and move it or change the name of it, in other words, if you take this picture right here and move it someplace else, or you come in here and change the name of this picture, RootsMagic doesn't know where that picture is anymore because it thinks it's right there. But in reality, it's either in another folder or it has a different file name. When that happens, RootsMagic will put that little broken link picture there. Now, it will still show you this little picture because RootsMagic does put a little tiny version of the picture in the database. Okay, we can get away with putting little tiny versions of the pictures in the database without having to worry about corruption. And it's called a thumbnail. And so we do keep a little thumbnail so you can see what that picture originally looked like, but the little broken link right there means that picture is not where it originally was. Now, one place that this can happen is if I come up here to add new media and I add a picture to RootsMagic, but that picture happens to be on a CD, for example. In other words, I say add new media and click on disk and then change over to my CD-ROM drive and select a picture there. If I do that, that picture will show up and you'll see the little thumbnail. And RootsMagic can continue to work. But as soon as you take that CD-ROM out of your CD-ROM drive, RootsMagic can't find that picture anymore because that file is on your CD-ROM drive, which is not in the drive anymore. And so RootsMagic can no longer find that. Okay. If that happens, you do have an option. I was going to show this a little bit later, but let's go ahead and talk about that while we're on the subject. When you're in the media album, you can come over here to Tools, and when you click on Tools, there's an option right here called Fix Broken Media Links. Now, this is going to work if you have moved your pictures someplace else. If you've renamed your pictures, this is not going to help, because what RootsMagic is doing is it's looking for that original picture to find out where you happened to move that to. Now, I do see a question about, or a comment about, really liking to be able to tell a starting position on fixed broken media links. That is something we are working on. So we are right now, fixed broken media links does look through your whole computer trying to find those pictures. That is something we are working on for a future update, future version, being able to let you kind of select where you want us to look for those. Okay, so let's go ahead and add another media item. And I'm going to say I want to add another media item. It's going to be an image again. And I'm going to go ahead and select disk. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick let's go ahead and pick a picture like this, kind of a castle-y looking picture. And I'm going to put this was his house. Now we know this wasn't his house, but you know, it would be cool to say you lived in a place that looked as cool as that. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and I've now added that. Now I could have gone in and added descriptions. You'll notice that on this one, that is not his primary photo. If I wanted it to be his primary photo, I could go back in, select that, go back into the properties, and check that to be his primary photo. That would make this his primary photo, and it would uncheck his other photo as being primary. So you can't have two primary photos. If I check this, it will have checked that, and this would be his primary photo and the other one wouldn't. But I did say, yeah, go ahead and include that in his scrapbook. Okay. Now I'm going to add another new media, and I'm going to go ahead and say, let's go ahead and add, let's add a video. We're going to add a video. Now you see when I add a video, the scanner disappears. It's not enabled. In other words, I can't scan a video. I also can't scan audio, and I can't scan what we call a file. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to look for the video, and in that folder I actually happen to have a video right here. So I'm going to add this little video right here, and I'm going to put cute little doggy. Okay, and I can add the description to that. Now, when I do that, when I close out of here, when I come back in, it doesn't show you, we don't show you the little video right here, but that video is linked to just like the pictures are, and I can actually access that video kind of the same way I do the pictures. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to close out of here for a second, and you're going to see that I'm back on the edit screen where I was originally adding these items, and now there's a little check mark. If I move down here so you can see it better, there's a little check mark showing that I actually have media items attached to this person. And when I highlight that, you'll see it's showing me down there that I do have these media items. Now when I close this, you're going to see that now when Howard is highlighted, that primary photo is displayed next to his name. Okay. Now by doing this, by adding media items and having a primary photo for a person, I can now start printing reports that will include pictures. And I don't have to worry about how do I resize the pictures, how do I do this. I link to the full resolution picture, and RootsMagic will size the pictures to fit wherever they're needed. So let me go ahead and I'm going to come back into Howard Smith's edit screen here, and I'll go back into his media album. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this picture, and I'm going to go to Properties, and I'm going to change this one to the primary photo just to kind of show you what I mean. When I do that, okay, I've now made that the primary photo. When I close again, you'll see that is now the picture that when I select him, that primary picture is the one that's going to be there rather than the picture, the photograph of him. So I'm going to go back in here, and I'm going to actually switch it back to the one I want right there. Okay. Now, while I'm in a media album, there's a number of different things I can do. You've seen what I've done so far. When I click on a person and select Properties, that's where I can go in and change the caption, the description, and all of that information. I can actually change it to a different file if I'd like as well. There's also the option to view or edit. So if I actually click on View, when I highlight a picture, if I click on View, that's going to open up the actual full resolution picture, and this happens to be a fairly low resolution original, but this lets me go in and I can zoom in and out. I can view it as actual size, so that's the actual size. That's why when I zoom in, it's a little grainier. I can zoom it to fit, or I can just zoom to some random percentage, or I can just zoom in or out, which is what these buttons allow me to do. Okay, I can also go in and do a number of things. I can flip the picture, so I can flip it horizontally, or put it back, or I can flip it vertically. So if I want him standing on his head, I can do that. Now this is actually useful mainly if you happen to do a scanning and you accidentally scan it upside down, or you pull a picture off and it's reversed for some reason. This allows you to get it the way it's supposed to be. You can also rotate the picture. So I can rotate it 90 degrees. I can rotate it back the rest of the 270 degrees to get it back, or I can rotate it a custom amount. Okay, and so that basically just kind of spins it around. Okay, so let me do that. Now also under Image, I can do color settings. Now these color settings, I will admit, are somewhat complicated looking, and I personally don't really use these a lot. But if they are available, so if you're good with paint shop, doing color handling, these can actually be useful. You can adjust the contrast. Okay, that's pretty self-explanatory. So this is the original, and this is what the result is going to be. If I happen to overdo it or get something I don't like, I just reset it. It's not going to modify the original until I actually am happy with what I see here and press OK. So I can adjust the contrast. I can also adjust the brightness. I can come in, and there's a number of different ways of adjusting the color. And this is a black and white picture, so you're not going to really be able to see a whole lot. But I can do it by hue, saturation, value. I can do it by hue, saturation, luminosity, or I can do it by RGB. RGB, if I want to add red, more red to it, take more red away. If I want to add green or subtract green, and if I want to add blue or subtract blue. So if I wanted to make it kind of a sepia, I can go in and kind of adjust it to get a sepia if I want to do that. But you can adjust that. You can also do gamma correction with the different channels. You can also sharpen it. So if you've got a picture that's a little fuzzy and you want it a little bit sharper, of course you can take it to extremes where it looks horrible. But you have a number of different options for adjusting the color. Okay, it's not like a full-blown image photo editing package, but RootsMagic's not intended to be that. Since RootsMagic links to the picture on the hard drive, you can use your regular old photo imaging, photo editing software that you have on your computer to modify the picture that RootsMagic's linked to, and so you can do it that way. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel. So that's kind of the editor for the media. Okay. You can also go and remove media items. So if I didn't want this picture here anymore, I can say remove it, and it will ask if I want to remove the selected media from this album. Now, the reason it's worded that way from this album is if I have reused a picture for multiple people, it may not completely remove the picture from RootsMagic itself, because you may have other media items, or other pieces of information that are linking and using that same media item. Okay, you also have the ability to print. So if I wanted to, I can select a picture to print, and I have two basic options: print the caption if it's available, and print the description. And I can choose the layout, so I can go in and put a header or a footer, choose the page size, the margins, select the fonts that I want to use for the caption and the description, and then just say go ahead and generate it. And let's go ahead and zoom back out a little bit. Okay, and so it will print the picture along with the caption and the description. And then I can print it, I can save it to file, I can email it to somebody. So that's a way to actually just get a quick printout of a single individual picture that I've got attached to somebody. Now, one last thing I actually wanted to mention, because we talked about adding new media, and we talked about doing images, we talked a little bit about sound clips, and we added a video clip. But there's also an option to add a file. Now, what a file lets me do is add things that you don't normally consider as being a picture or sound or video. So I'm going to go ahead and click on disk, and I've got a PDF file right here. So I'm going to go ahead and add a PDF file, and I could put short report for this PDF file. Okay, and you'll see that it's showing that I've now got this PDF file in my album. Now this, when I say file, it can be a PDF, it can be a Word document, it can be an Excel spreadsheet, it can be a personal historian file or a family atlas file. You can basically add any kind of file to the RootsMagic album because it's simply linking to that file. Well, what's great about that is that if I link a PDF file, when I come into here, as I mentioned, if I double-click on an image, it opens up the image editor and lets me do things. But if I double-click on a file, it opens up, in this case, Acrobat, and shows me that PDF file. If this happened to be a Word document, it would have opened up Word and allowed me to edit the Word file. If it was an Excel spreadsheet, it would have opened up Excel and let me edit that file. So you could do things like add a census transcription. You know, if you've gone in and had a census record and you transcribed it all out into an Excel spreadsheet, you can add a link to that Excel spreadsheet from or into that person's media album. Okay? If it's a sound clip and I double-clicked on it, it will play that sound clip. If it's a video clip and you double-click on it, and I'll go ahead and double-click on this one, then it plays the little video. Okay? So whatever you add into a person's media album, it can be played or edited or viewed right from inside of the person's media album. Now this is actually kind of cool. There's a class that I sometimes teach about using RootsMagic, Family Atlas, and Personal Historian all together. And what you can do is if you have a Family Atlas file or a Personal Historian file, you can come up to add new media and say you want to add a file and then actually select that Personal Historian data file or that Family Atlas data file and add a person's personal history file right into their media album. Well, what's great about that is when I come into the media album, if I double-click on that Personal Historian file, it opens up Personal Historian with that file open so that I can go ahead and start working or continue to work on that personal history. Or if I've added a Family Atlas file with a set of coordinates and markers and stuff on a map, if I double-click on that, if I've added that Family Atlas file, I double-click, it opens up Family Atlas with that data file in there as well. Okay, so the last option that I want to mention on this screen is this Add from Gallery. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come out and I'm going to go into his wife's edit screen, and I'm going to go into her media album. And so instead of adding a new media item, I'm going to say Add from Gallery, and it's going to show you all of the things that I've added to anybody. And this is the picture I want because I'm going to say she happened to live there as well. So I'm going to go ahead and select that, and I'm going to put she lived here too. And I could put whatever description I want or anything there. Click OK. And so I've now added that same picture to her media album as well. Okay, now one other thing I can do, let's go back into his screen because I have several items. Over here in Tools, there's an option right here that says Rearrange Media Items. What that's useful for is if I happen to add 10 pictures to his media album and then decided I wanted them arranged based on, youngest to oldest, I could do that. I click on Rearrange Media Items, and it's going to show me all of the items I've added, and I can rearrange them. I can say I want that picture to be first, and the places that this gets used is when you're printing the scrapbook for this person. This is not changing the what's primary. So in this case, this picture is still the primary picture. It doesn't have to be the first one. So I can rearrange it from a picture of when he was a baby to a picture of his tombstone, and then pick the picture that I like best for him as being his primary picture. Okay, so let's go ahead and hop out of here. Now, as I mentioned, when I clicked on Add from Gallery, it brought up the media gallery for the whole file. Well, you can get to that directly by coming up here, go to Lists, and then come down here to the media gallery, and that's going to take you right here into the media gallery. Okay, now you'll notice that when I select a particular picture, it's not showing me, in this case, it's showing me where the file is, but it's not showing me the description or the caption, and that is because this picture, in this case, in the media gallery, is used in multiple places. When I'm showing you the media album for just that person, you can enter the caption and description there. But in this case, this picture may have more than one caption and more than one description because it's used by more than one person. And what I can do is I can select any of these items and come up here to Tools, and I can choose Show Where This Media Is Used. And when I do that, it's going to show me all of the people, families, places, sources, citations, whatever, that are using this picture, and it's going to show me the caption that is used for each of those as well. Okay, so when I added that picture to Howard, I entered this was his house for the caption, but when I used it for Phoebe, I put she lived here too for her caption. Now, like I was just mentioning, these pictures do not have to be limited to just people. So I'm going to come out of here, and I'm going to go up here to the master place list. So when I go to Lists and then come down here to the master place list, I'll see a list of places that I've actually entered. Now, when I edit a place, I'm going to go ahead and choose this one just because it happens to be up near the top. I'm going to go ahead and edit this place. And from here, I can do all the place editing. We had an entire webinar on doing things with places, so check that out if you want to know what all of this information is for. The thing I wanted to bring to your attention here is place media. Each place also has its own media album. So if I come up here and say Add from Gallery, and this happens to be the same place, it's not, again, pretend like it is, I'm going to go ahead and say Select, and I can add a caption here, and I've now added this particular picture once again to the media album for a place. So when I come back out of here, I'm going to go ahead and hop out. Now when I go into Lists and into the media gallery, when I select this place and say show me where it's used, there are now three things. Howard and Phoebe are both used there, but this place, and you can tell by the little globe, this place is used there along with whatever caption I have entered into this particular media album. Okay, so now I've got three places. Again, I can have media albums for people, and we saw that by going in here. We can have media albums for people. We can have media albums for family, spouses. I see a question, why is Phoebe entered twice as a spouse? And that's because she's entered twice as a spouse. It's a, you know, just this sample database happens to have her in there twice. We sometimes use this database to demonstrate how to do merging. So that's why that's in there. Normally you would not see her in there twice, but we have her in there twice for other classes that we teach. I can also have media albums for each event. As we showed you when we went into the place list, we can have media albums for places. You can actually also have a media album for place details. So if I actually went in and had place details, in other words, if I had churches and cemeteries and whatever in this particular town, I could add images to that as well. I can also go in, and if I have a source, let's go ahead and add a source. I'm going to go ahead and cite an existing source. I'll just reuse this existing source. When I'm working and adding a source, I can click on More, and I have a media album for that source, for this birth certificate in this case, or I can add pictures to the citation itself. So I can add pictures to media albums at both the master source level and the source details level. So whichever I want. You know, we don't have actually time to go in and talk about sources. There is a webinar on how to do sources, and we talk about the media a bit in there as well. What I'm doing right here is just kind of showing you the different places that are allowed to have media items attached to them. Okay, so let's go ahead and hop out of here. So what we've done is we've kind of showed you all the places that you can add images or multimedia. We've shown you how to add media items to a media album and how to reuse media items that you've already used. And then we've shown you the media gallery. So let's go ahead and show you a few places that you can use these media items. So let's go ahead and come into, actually there's one thing I want to do first. I'm going to go into Howard. I'm going to go back into Howard, and I'm going to come out of his, I'm going to come out of here, and this house picture, I'm actually going to remove this from his media album, his personal media album, and I'm going to go into this particular spouse, and I'm going to go into this family media album, say add from a gallery, and I'm going to pick this. Okay, so basically what I've done is I have added that house or this building, instead of being in his own personal media album, I've added it to his family media album. And I'll show you why I've done that. Okay, we're going to go into reports, and I'm going to go into charts, I'm going to go into forms, and I'm going to choose a family group sheet. Now, when I go in to choose a family group sheet, you're going to have a lot of different options, and we're not going to worry about too many of these options except for these two right here. Family photo at the top of the page and photos for each person. So let's go ahead and choose family photo at the top of the page. When I do that and select generate the report, I apparently have the wrong Phoebe here, so I am actually going to go to his other Phoebe. No, I'm not, because it doesn't have children. I'm going to go into his screen, and I'm going to add that media, add that picture to his other family as well. Okay, now we're going to do the family group sheet. And I'm telling it to include the family photo at the top of each page. And when I do that, I now have that family photo, or the primary family photo, at the top of the family group sheet. Now this could be like this. It could be a building. It could be a home where this family lived. It could be a family picture. If you've got a picture of the whole family together, you can put that family picture up there at the top. But we can also add pictures for each person. So if I go back into the settings and tell it, yes, include the photos for each person as well, when I regenerate that report, I now have the pictures for each person, father, mother, and the children. If they don't have pictures, obviously the program cannot include those, but it will include the pictures for each person as well as that family. If I don't want the family photo, turn that off, and I get it without the family photo and just with the pictures for each person. Okay, so this is one spot where the family group sheet allows us to include photos. Just by clicking a checkbox, we can turn those photos on or off. I can also do narrative reports. So if I want to do a modified register, I just have to make sure that in the options, I tell it to include photos. When I do that, I'm going to get the photos for each of those people next to their name. Now, I could also, if I want those pictures to be a little larger, I can go into options and I can choose a larger size, a larger maximum size for those photos. So I go ahead and select that, and those photos are a little bit larger now. Okay, let's go ahead and if we do a wall chart, I'm not going to actually do a wall chart, but if we do a wall chart, that will also have options. Do we want to include the photos of each person in there? In the charts, if we do the box charts, we also have the option of including pictures there. The last report that I want to talk about here, though, is the scrapbook. Now, currently in RootsMagic, these reports are generally going to only use the primary picture for a person. Now, I mentioned we can attach pictures to people and families and places and events and all of these other things. Now, currently the one report that will let you get all of that kind of information is the scrapbook. And this is where you can choose to print a scrapbook for a person, for a family, for a source, or for a place. So if I were to go ahead and select that I want to do a scrapbook for a person, I can choose options. Do I want captions or descriptions? Do I want photos attached to events? Okay, what that means is if I don't check this, RootsMagic is only going to print the pictures that I attached to that person, in that person's media album. Okay, if I choose to print photos attached to the events, it's also going to include pictures that are attached to his birth and death and burial and various events that I may have attached pictures to. Now, I can also come over here and kind of choose the layout, how many columns and rows. So by default, you're going to have 2 columns, 6 rows. In other words, it will do up to 6 pictures per page. I can go and choose the layout and the fonts and all kinds of things here, but I'm going to go ahead and tell it to generate that scrapbook. And in this case, I only had the one picture because I had taken that other picture out, if you remember. And it has his caption and the description. Now, if I go into those settings and I say, oh, only do 1 column by 3 rows, okay, it's going to make that wider. Now it's 1 column by 3 rows. I could come in here and I could say 1 column by 2 rows, which is going to give me a page that's basically 50-50. I could also just say I want 1 picture per page, so I go 1 column by 1 row, and there's my 1 picture per page. Now, one of the other settings that you see right here is this box style. You notice that when I'm printing it, it's printing this yellow box with the little border around it, and I can come down here and I can choose any number of different border styles, colors for the box, for the shadow, but I can also go ahead and choose none. So if I don't want a box and I don't want the shadow, when I go ahead and do it this way, I'm going to get just the picture, description, and caption in whatever size I want without the box. So you can go in and kind of customize this scrapbook however you want. So let's go ahead. I'm going to actually come back here, and I'm going to go back to 2 columns by 2 rows, so it'll do 4 on each. We'll turn the box style back on to kind of an indented corners. And so that would give us that. Now, I'm going to come back out, and I'm going to go into Howard, and let's go ahead and add another picture. So I'm going to go ahead and add another image, and we'll go ahead and pick let's pick a map. Okay, we've added a map, and we can add whatever caption we want, and we can add whatever description we want. Now, so I have 2 pictures, and this one is to be included in the scrapbook. Now I'm going to come down here to his birth. And I'm going to add a birth image, and I'm going to say that I probably don't have any pictures of any youngsters here, so I'm going to pick we'll just pick another building here. And so we've added that to his birth. So now his birth has a picture as well. So when I go back in to print that scrapbook, and if I say person and I tell it not to include events, I'm going to get just those 2 pictures. If I tell it to include the events, you see it's going to start adding in the events that I actually attach to pictures. Okay. Now I see a question. Will you be talking about the amount of space all this is taken? Okay. The amount of space this will take is however much space those pictures take on your hard drive. Because as I mentioned, RootsMagic is not pulling these pictures into the RootsMagic database. Okay. It is going to link to the pictures on the hard drive, so however much hard drive space those pictures take, that's how much it's going to take. Okay. Another question, when we move data from one computer to another, will the pictures transfer as well? Okay, we're going to come to that in just a few minutes. I have one last thing to show, and then we're going to go ahead and do that. Okay, so let's go ahead, and the last thing I'm going to show you where you can use pictures is when you're creating a website. Again, we also have a webinar on creating a website, so I'm not going to spend hardly any time on doing this. The project name is going to be, we'll say it's Smith, and we pick whatever format we want, and we can choose whether we want a photo on the home page, and we can say use a photo of that starting person along with a title and an introduction. Okay, and then I also can choose whether I want photos of each person. So I'm going to go ahead and generate. It already exists. Yes, redo it. If I want to view this in my browser, okay, I tried dragging that over here, and it is not dragging for me. Okay, so here's the website we created. There is that starting picture of that starting person. When I go in, you'll see cameras, a little camera next to people that I've added a picture to, and when I click on that, it will show that picture. So you can actually use your pictures in your websites if you'd like them to be in there as well. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about when I move my database to another computer, because that's one of the big things you'll see. Okay, there's a couple of ways I can move a copy of my file to another computer. They're both under the File menu. One is called File Export, in other words, create a GEDCOM file of my data, and the other is to create a backup. Okay, now both of those will basically create a copy of your database in a format that can be moved to another file. Your backup is going to be a compressed file that when you get to the other computer, you will do restore and restore that backup on the other computer. If you export a GEDCOM file, that GEDCOM file can be taken to the other computer where you will do import and import that GEDCOM file into a new database on the other computer. Both of these files will contain the link information for the pictures. In other words, it will say this person or this fact or this place or this source is linked to this picture at C:/something something something. Okay, they won't include the picture themselves. They will include all of your data. They will include the links to the pictures, but the pictures themselves will not be included. So if you are going to move your database to another computer using either GEDCOM or a backup, you also have to take your pictures separately. And what you can do is, if your pictures are all in a folder, just go into that folder in your Windows Explorer and drag and drop, copy them, burn them onto a CD, take them to the other computer, and copy them from the CD onto the hard drive of the other computer. Once you do that, I can almost guarantee that you are going to see the pictures with that little broken link that we talked about earlier. And that is because most likely your pictures are going to be in your pictures folder on your computer, which Windows, in its wisdom, has put in a folder that has your username in it. C:/users/Bruce/something. And on your other computer, it probably has a different version of your name or admin or whatever. But basically what that means is that where RootsMagic thinks your pictures are is probably not the same place on your new computer as it was on your old computer. So what you do is, after you've copied those pictures onto the new computer, go into RootsMagic. Like I say, you'll see the little broken link images there. Go up to List, come down to Media Gallery, and we talked about this before. Click on Tools and Fix Broken Media Links. And RootsMagic will hunt down and find those pictures that you've copied, regardless of where you copied them on your computer. It will find them and relink those pictures back up. Okay, and once it's done that, your pictures will then once again show without the little broken media links. So that actually will hunt down all those pictures, as long as you didn't change the names of those pictures, which you wouldn't have done. You've just copied them from one computer to the other, so the file name itself hasn't changed. That Fix Broken Media Links will hunt down those pictures and link them back up. Okay, now that being said, there is actually a third option, and that option is right here under your Tools menu, and it's an option here called Create a Shareable CD. Now, when you create a shareable CD, what RootsMagic does is it takes your entire database, burns that on the CD, and takes all of your media items and burns them on the CD as well. Okay? Now, when it does that, it also asks you to, to enter a title for your introduction page and an introduction and so on. It asks you your name and all of that. You can preview your CD opening page. We've actually had a webinar where we talked about creating a shareable CD, so if you want to know how to do this, it's pretty straightforward, but there is a webinar on how to do that. When we click on Next, RootsMagic collects up the files, including all of my media files. You can see right there it said collecting media. It went by pretty fast. And you can say, burn that shareable CD. When you burn that shareable CD, those pictures are on that CD as well. When you give that CD to somebody and they put that into their computer, they will be able to navigate around your database, and as they select a person, they will be able to see those images, they will be able to print those images, they will be able to do that. So that shareable CD is kind of like a backup with your pictures. Okay? The disadvantage is that those pictures are only linked into the data as long as they are on that CD. Okay, RootsMagic has that RootsMagic reader, the thing that's on that little version of RootsMagic that's on that reader, that's read-only, has to pull some little tricks in order to know what drive that picture is in, but the folder itself never changes on that CD. That's why it's able to continue to do that. So if you wanted your pictures to be moved from one computer to the other, You could do that with the Shareable CD, but there's a good chance that when you copy those pictures over, that again, once it's on your other computer, it will still have those broken media links. So you will need to go ahead and do that fix broken media links, okay, in that case. Now, there's a question that I've seen several times about RootsMagic using relative addressing versus absolute addressing. Okay, if you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry. Those people who do know what I'm talking about, this will be your answer. Basically, absolute addressing means RootsMagic points to an absolute place on your hard drive. In other words, it says that picture is at C:/something, something, something, and it has to be at that exact thing. Relative addressing means RootsMagic could say, oh, the pictures are in this kind of, they have these names that are at this position, but it's relative to some place, okay? Right now, RootsMagic does not support relative addressing for pictures, but that is an item we are working on for a future version. So it doesn't do that now, but it is something we are working on. Okay, so that basically is an overview of working with media, whether that media is pictures, sound clips, video clips, or just files. Linking in, Excel spreadsheets or Word documents or what have you. The one thing that I will mention, some people don't actually realize this, is only images are printable from RootsMagic. So in other words, obviously, we have not figured out the technology to print audio clips, and we have not figured out the technology to print video clips. Those two, I guess, are probably pretty clear and straightforward. What's a little less intuitive is that when you add files, when you add a Word document, an Excel spreadsheet, or a PDF file as a file, RootsMagic cannot print those as well, because RootsMagic does not have the Acrobat printing code, the Word printing code, the Excel printing code. It does not have that built in to know how to print those files or those documents. It does have code that knows how to print a Windows bitmap, a JPEG, a GIF, a PNG file. It does know how to print those. So if you've been adding PDF files to people and wondered why those don't happen to print as the little picture in a narrative report, that's why. Printing a PDF is actually a document. It's not an image like a PNG or a GIF or a JPEG are. It's actually a document. It can have words and tables and all of that in there, and RootsMagic does not have PDF printing code built into it. Okay, so Mike, are there any questions that that seem to be coming up?
Just several questions about moving the pictures from one computer to another. In terms of the shareable CD, what happens if you have more media than will fit on a CD?
Oh, okay, great. If you have more media than will fit on a CD, you can also, on that shareable CD, it will also burn DVDs. So if your reader, if your burner on your computer is a DVD burner, which nowadays that's what they all are, they can burn CDs or DVDs. You can actually use a DVD and burn it. That'll get you quite a bit more space. Now, keep in mind that the DVD, the shareable DVD that it burns, is like the shareable CD. It has to be run on a Windows-based computer. It isn't a DVD like you go put in your DVD player on your TV. That requires a whole separate type of DVD. So this DVD is basically like a CD with a lot more room on it. But that's one thing that you can do. Okay, well, looks like we're about out of time. So I hope you all enjoyed, learning a little bit more about working with with your multimedia. Hopefully those who have those 500 pictures that haven't added any, will find it a little bit less daunting being able to add those. And those of you who have only one picture or two pictures, find this enticing enough to go out there and scan some more pictures, get some more digital images, and start using those as well, because the pictures really make your reports. They really make your narrative reports pop. When you create that book, instead of being just a bunch of words, when you've got pictures of those family members, that makes a big difference. It makes it a lot more appealing to your audience to read those. So hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for joining us.